I don't know how we're going to get through this one.
Without Tad?
Without Tad.
It's going to be rough. We'll do our level best.
Who are we, Thomas?
I thought you were going to say we're back.
We're back. We are back. Well, I'm a little out of sorts.
Yeah. Wow, we're Power and Speed, 908-751-0211. And, man, you got to like us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And
you got to take over the job for Tad. Yeah. Tad is stuck in traffic.
Yeah, he is.
And I can't imagine. I'm sure he'll come wandering in here at some point.
I hope he does.
Yeah, I think he will. Well, he's got to go kind of past here to get home anyway.
Yeah. Traffic was a shit show. It really was.
Yes.
And he got into it earlier than I did.
And I have to say, we can thank the wonderful power we're enjoying here from imparted turbocharger.
Yeah.
My generator is up and running at like 4 pounds of boost, and the world is great.
Thing's badass. I can't even hear it.
I know. It's nice. Somebody had mentioned, that we're in New Jersey, and yes, as of right now, we have internet, we have power, because the power went on and off so many times today. I was like, forget it. I'm just going over to generator, and we've got storms that are moving through.
Yep.
So I figured it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and if the internet goes down, I'm sure the guys will live.
Or the internets.
Internets. This has been a hell of a week. All sorts of stuff going on.
Well, I wasn't here.
No, I know. But Lord knows you weren't here.
Yeah, I know.
Not only were you not here, you were absent on the telephone.
Yeah.
You were absent on text.
Yeah.
You are an ass kisser.
How so?
Wow. Does your family have like a little shock collar for you?
I was on vacation, man.
Were you working?
I really wasn't.
Really?
Really.
Okay. I'm going to give you a pass, but you'll be reminded of that.
I'm sure I will.
Quite often. All right. Yeah, it was an amazing week. Republican National Convention.
Yeah, we should talk about that. Hell with cars.
No.
Let's talk about how crazy this Democratic convention is.
I mean,
what a collection of weirdos.
Here's the problem.
Did a bunch of our people just shut it off?
Probably. The problem is that I've come to realize that I'm a racist, a misogynist, and that's not the person that rubs people. That's the person that doesn't like women.
Right.
There's like reading Twitter, I got some self-evaluation.
Yep.
And I am horrible because I happen to be, I guess, falling into the conservative side of things.
I guess we all are.
With that being said, I do not think that Donald Trump is our ideal candidate. Not even close. He is not what a fiscal conservative would like.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, their convention, nice, peaceful. Now, on the other hand,
wow.
I have to say this just because.
Speaking of perfect candidates,
made my day when Debbie Wasserman Schultz got pushed out of everything. I think that's awesome. She is vile.
She's a monster.
I can't imagine that most of the married men out there that don't like their wives listen to her and think about their wife.
I got to say, just from the perspective of watching a newscast, why would even the liberals, why wouldn't they watch Fox News? All the women are hot.
Oh, yeah, they sure are. Even Gretchen Carlson. There's another whole thing.
Yeah,
Roger, booted.
I know.
You old perv.
I know.
But can you blame the guy?
No.
I mean,
yeah, he was in a candy store.
Oh,
he made the candy store. He bought all the candy.
True. Okay. Enough politics, because people are gonna hang up and turn off and everything else. Let's start with a few things.
Go.
We do have a guy from Utah listening.
Yeah, we do.
Believe this or not, we have a Utalian.
A Ute.
I don't know what.
I think they call them Utes. Did you say Utalian?
I don't.
That's good, actually.
I don't know, but welcome. I'm glad you're there.
I wonder if he listened to the early episodes, because that was a big thing.
I think that's why he specifically said that he was going to call in.
I mean, it's funny. Back in the day, it's over a year ago now, when we had like 9 people listening. It was a long time before we had somebody from Utah.
Yeah, and it's funny because like it shades the map in and it gets darker and darker green as more and more people listen. And Utah was always bone white. Yeah. And I'm like, that really sucks.
Yep.
It was strange. But yeah, I'm glad you're here, buddy. Nitro Scott is Utah, I guess is what it is.
Okay.
According to him.
All right. He would know.
He should know. He lives there.
Is it okay if we just say the Utes?
The Utes.
Like from my cousin Vinny? What did you say?
The other thing that we got to talk about, and we're going to publish all the links. There's a gentleman by the name of Chuck, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. It's Erb, E-R-B. That guy, and I mean, my timeline stuff filters by, and I look at things. He is one promoting dude. He really is. He's got, and because things,
I wouldn't know. I can't see your timeline.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see our timeline, can't you?
Yeah.
He's got a ton of events, and I wanted to be more prepared to actually, talk about his events. But unfortunately, today, like I said, was tough with the power, with you getting here.
Yep.
We had hiccups. Everything was difficult. So,
and we're never prepared anyway.
We're not anywhere near as prepared as we should be. But we're gonna start publishing his links, and maybe when Tad gets here and you have somebody to talk to, if you can drag anything out of him,
right.
I'll look it up and I'll start plugging his stuff. But I mean, this guy, you might want to look him up. And again, just go to our page and we'll put some of the links there. He promotes the shit out of racing. He really does.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
And I got to shout out to Tad a little bit. He did do a pretty good job getting our stuff on YouTube. He's almost done. He's up to the 50s. So I know you want to hate on him.
No, do you want me to rain on your parade?
No.
He didn't do it.
Jesus.
He did put a lot of them up. He did.
Who did it?
Apparently,
They all say no sleep at all.
Right. Well, that's how far he got. But if you go look at Power and Speed, the channel on YouTube,
yep,
they're all there with artwork and everything. You know how I did it?
No.
I pushed a button. It said publish to YouTube. And I'm like, Tad?
So he was toiling over that for like weeks.
Well, and right after.
It's not easy. It takes time. Blah, blah, blah.
I know. Right after I told him to do it. It's not his fault. Right after I told him to do it.
It is his fault.
That
button was there.
No, it wasn't there.
Ah.
They added it like probably after he was a weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
So he just got hammered.
Yeah.
I was going to say the F word, but I'm trying to lay off of that.
Yeah, it's tough. And we're on iHeartRadio now. There's a whole bunch of things you could publish to. So I just kind of checked everything and pushed the button.
I'll tell you what,
happens.
the Google Play, when you put out the edict that we had to listen to the last show that Keith was on, and Google Play is simple, man. You just turn it on, search it. All of our stuff's there.
Okay.
Piece of cake.
I wouldn't know. But look, that's easy for the Android guys.
Yeah.
For you guys that are, on inferior equipment, it's great.
Speaking of inferior equipment, I had a mess with my mother's iPhone the other day, and I don't know how you people do that.
I have mine works every day. I turn it on, it just works.
They're stupid.
Okay.
They really are.
Okay. You can just sit there in your Androidness.
Yeah. Okay. Go change your battery.
The other thing I don't have to. It never goes dead.
Yeah,
it's magic.
Your battery goes dead twice a week when you're talking to me, idiot.
Another thing to talk about.
Yeah.
The Australian guys and New Zealand guys that are coming this direction.
Yep.
It's amazing. They are, I don't know how much stuff Manly sells over there, but they are car crazy.
They are.
The Small Tire Mafia guy, he's got all kinds of stuff. I mean, and they've got like kind of cool cars because they're not the things we see here.
No, they are
day.
cool cars.
Yeah.
That's the only place in the world that Chevy makes cars that are good looking.
Yeah. Yeah, they got some really neat stuff. So that's another thing to check out. Small Tire Mafia.
Yep.
You got to go check those guys.
And actually from the machining aspect, they really do some good stuff over there. In fact, in
guy's name is Aaron, by the way.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Aaron Nash?
Sash. I just saw him under. Hi, Aaron.
Oops, sorry, man.
Continue.
I mean, I think one of the top producing cylinder head guys is there in like Top Alcohol and Pro Mod. They make really nice stuff. I don't know where they get their influence from or their passion, but they certainly have it.
Maybe that's a nice thing. They're kind of on their own, and nobody bothers them, and they do what they want to do.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, every time that I see something cool, like a cool picture, I look, it's from Small Tire Mafia.
Yeah,
lots of good stuff there. Lots of good stuff. I mean, we welcome everybody from those regions and from all over.
And they have kangaroos.
They probably do. They probably.
There's got to be something good about that.
I would. Yeah, they don't seem too nice. Well, I will have to ask an Australian and New Zealand guy about that.
Yeah.
All right. So tonight we have Keith back from Total Seal.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking, and even you. I mean, after that show, you were like, "Oh man, we could have spent another hour with him," and that'll be good.
But this is where it gets kind of tough for me because I know the questions I'd like to ask for the things that particularly concern me.
So why don't you do that?
Because I don't know if the average guys are going to want to
What are you hating on our people?
No.
That they're average? You just
No.
did.
No.
What are you, an elitist?
Yes. I read that on Twitter too.
That's a good. I always wanted to work that word into something.
I don't want to talk about things that I don't want to make it
Obvious that you're smarter than everybody?
No, you dick. I mean, I don't want to turn. I want them to be interested in like the stuff we're talking about. So
All
I don't want to go
No, it's a
too
great
crazy
idea.
into it.
It's a great idea. So we'll talk about crayons to Keith.
Okay. Well, fine. And I'll start asking all the goofy questions that I have, and then people will be like, Mike, you suck.
I think our guys are smarter than we probably think. They're, because we think we're the smartest guys in the world.
Well, I just don't know how many people are, I mean, you know what this comes down to, and it's something to ask the listeners. How many people build their own motors versus how many people go out and buy their motors? I know that I found over time that the Circle Track guys, no offense, here I am tolling on them again.
Yep.
They buy motors because they're dummies. A lot of the drag guys and guys that do their, that work on their own cars, they build their own cars. A lot of them build and fix their own motors. Or we had actually a lot of people that I know that would buy, one motor as a foundation from an engine builder, and then they would maintain it. They would re-ring it, bearings, valve jobs, whatever. So I don't know where these guys all fall. So if anybody is,
but one thing we know about our guys,
what?
If they have a problem with something we're doing, they're going to call us dicks.
Probably. Why did somebody call us a dick?
Yeah, Jeff Chang basically just did in a roundabout way.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. Lucky he's in California.
I'm going there tomorrow.
Good, and smack him when you see him.
Nah, Jeff's cool.
So,
well, he doesn't even know I'm going there. He does
he
now.
Does now.
Yeah.
Is Keith going to call in like 7:15, or did we give him a time? Or?
Yeah, 7:15.
Okay, good. So what else did you do this weekend? Anything good, car wise?
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
Not a thing.
Nothing.
Mm-mm. No, I looked at houses.
That's all you did.
So,
and that stopped you from picking up your telephone to answer one of the thousands of phone calls that I placed. And you know what I like too?
Most times I didn't have my phone with me.
Know what I like too?
What?
I got to take this. I'll call you back in 5 minutes. I'll call you back at 9 o'clock. I don't know what day of 9 o'clock you were talking about.
Well, you got to ask
from Tuesday.
You should have asked.
Obviously, I should have.
I fucked up last night. Yeah, and many other times. Hey, after a week of being off, that's what happens. I get bombed.
Yeah, and I can understand. On my Mondays, you generally like that too. I didn't do really anything car related.
No.
Oh no.
Did you shoot?
I forgot.
You did do something car related.
I did do something car related, and I even posted about it, and I forgot. Power stop brakes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Are you going to hate on them?
A little.
Are they on the truck?
The fronts are.
The truck looks good, by the way.
Thank you.
With the new sneaks on it.
Just don't look underneath.
No.
You know what that truck is? That's like a girl from like 40 feet, and you're like, oh, look at this.
Yep.
And then you get up close. The grill's all busted up. The ass end's no good, and the undercarriage is shot.
Yep.
Because that's really how that thing is. It doesn't look bad from a distance.
No,
but
it doesn't.
It's pretty rough.
Once you start riding it, it's rough.
Ooh. And I'm the misogynist.
Yeah.
I had to put brakes on the truck. It was getting worse and worse and worse. The rotors are warped, and that thing eats brakes like crazy. I usually get, regular parts from like Advanced. I get a little bit of a discount there. They take care of me. And, you price everything out and you go all together and you say, well, this should be pretty good. This will, you can get a reasonable deal from those guys. And I've had every rotor you could think of.
Yep.
Bosch, Motorcraft, Fords. I mean, and it beats the shit out of everything.
Yep.
Something drew my attention to the power stop stuff, which I know is probably all made in China. It's probably not made here. And I figured, okay, let me see what their pricing's like. So for their best kit for that particular generation of truck, I think it was like $480. And that's better than I could do at Advanced.
And that was for rotors and calipers?
Rotors, remanufactured calipers that are powder coated red, which is, quite nice if you really want to look sporty.
Yeah.
And pads and what they called their extreme kit. And the rotors are slotted and drilled.
That's crazy.
I don't know if that does anything for you. I mean, all good cars are slotted and drilled, but I can't imagine it's helping the Excursion a ton.
I don't know.
So I go to put the kit on, and I'm paying attention, but not really. I'm just ripping all the old stuff off.
Yeah.
I've done brakes in that thing 1,000 times.
Yep.
I mean, every 5 minutes seems like I'm doing them. bolted the caliper brackets on. I'm trying to put the pads in. I'm like, why can't I get this friggin' pad in? Well, because there's these little spring clips that hold both directions,
Yeah.
you know, and there's lefts and there's rights or inboards and outboards. Whoever built like the caliper brackets and everything just put all outboard clips on it. So the squealers are sticking in and you can't put the pad in. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. And of course the pads, they don't ship with them because they come with the caliper brackets. So there isn't even any in the pad box that they give you.
Yep.
So I called up Power Stop. It took me forever because they don't know that. I mean, I would call it an anti-rattle clip. They didn't call it that. So, I mean, I just named it Thingamajig at this point because I couldn't tell them what was wrong.
How could they not know what it is, though?
I don't know. But now, if I was the regular guy and didn't have nothing else to drive, and this thing was a part in my driveway,
You would have lost your shit.
and I call up Power Stop and I said, listen, I need these parts like now. You guys screwed up. They're like, well, just send everything back and reorder. And I'm like, dude, my truck is all apart. And they're like, well, you know, I said, look, I just need the anti-rattle clips. They got me to a guy with a brain. He found them, knew exactly what they were. We'll send them. You'll see them in 5 to 7 days.
Wow.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's the only car I got.
So bottom line is
My wife's pregnant.
they did send the stuff. They sent it regular ground UPS. It showed up here 3 days later. But at that point, I went to Advance and I bought another set of brake pads with the little clips. You fixed the clips and put it together.
But you didn't do the backs.
Didn't do the backs because I had to dick around and get all the other stuff. And then I just,
So you just didn't do them yet.
just didn't do them yet. But it's all here. And it's nice stuff. Now, of course, quality control, you know, I don't know if it's done in the U.S. or not. When you powder coat something, it has threads. They got to be cleaned. And
or masked.
powder coating is impossible to get a bolt through, like to just kind of force it through. It gets all sticky and nasty. Did a bad job at that.
What'd you do? Run a tap through it?
And I actually got another bolt and ran it through backwards to try to knock the stuff out and then scraped it by hand. I mean, like a regular guy would have put the bolt in and cross-threaded it for sure.
Yep.
But it's, you know, it's just QC stuff. And then I get it all in the truck and it stops like dog shit.
Really?
Yes.
Well, initially they do, right?
Well, I mean, I know about bedding, and I made sure that I, you know, followed what they would consider a bedding in procedure.
How'd you do that?
I actually followed their directions. 5 hard stops from
60 miles an hour or something like that.
60 to like 5 and don't stop. And then 5 stops that are hard from 20 to 5. Like they've got 2 different ranges of speed, I guess, to get different levels of heat in them. And I did all that and then just drove the thing around for a little while and it was terrible. And I told Tad, I said, this thing's awful. It's like needs a ton of pedal pressure to do anything. I was like, this is worse than my brakes before. I got in the thing the next day and it's good. So I don't know if they heat cycled or something. I'm not a brake guy.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that it's good. Is it any better than the Advanced Auto Parts store, like good pads or anything? No.
Probably not.
But it and in the end, they took care of me. So a little bit of hatred, but the product's okay. I think we got Keith, but because I'm a little out of sorts here, let me open.
Well, it's 7:20.
Yeah.
Time flies when we're having fun.
Let me get him in here. Hang on a minute, Keith.
Oh, wow. The phone's not on.
No.
Whose job is that?
Phoenix, Arizona. It would be me. It would be me. We won't even discuss you walking in marginally late.
True.
Keith, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, boys.
Hey, buddy.
bud.
Sorry about that. We were rambling. I looked down at the phone. I said, wow, that blue light's on. That means something.
What does that mean again?
I mean, somebody's calling.
Yes.
He's on hold.
Hey, welcome back, man. How's everything?
Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. And we had you on last time, and
We'll say it and grade it correctly for a Monday. Yeah, you always got to put the curve on it.
For a Monday,
Yeah, I did that already. Yep.
we had you on last time, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. And I had more and more questions that were coming up as we were going through the conversation. And, you know, a lot of listeners asked to have, you know, specifically you back. You were one of the ones that was requested because I guess they had more and more questions about the ring area, because really that is kind of, you know, if that's no good, nothing else is good. I mean, that's the whole ceiling section is important. So did anybody send any questions in yet, Tom, or no?
Not. I'm just reading them now. I'm just saying hi to somebody that's on here. No questions.
No questions yet. Okay. Well, well, first off, why don't you introduce yourself just in case nobody listened to the first one?
Yeah, this is Keith from Total Seal Piston Rings, and I'm here, and I've been with Total Seal almost 20 years. we'll just say really enjoy the heck out of this. I love working at Total Seal. It's a great company, real family organization, and this is what we do. We do piston rings, and we try to do the absolute best possible job we can manufacturing that part. We'll say, okay just isn't good enough. We've all heard that before.
Yeah, and you guys run the range of a replacement ring to the absolute pinnacle of piston ring performance at this point in time.
Pinnacle.
We do, we do multiple Formula One teams, top to bottom. We'll say, I like to say from stock to pro stock. It's, and everything in between. So, and we do a lot of specialty stuff, a lot of stuff people don't know that we do. We do a lot of, custom-made rings for things that just don't exist anymore. I've got, we did some rings just a little while ago for a 1911 Benz, not a Mercedes-Benz. It was before they merged. I was corrected by the customer. And this thing's going over to, Pebble Beach for the concours. And long story short, he sent me the piston, the rod, the rings, and they were of a design that I have never seen in my life. So it just kind of goes to show you, once you think you've seen everything, something will pop up, and there's some incredibly neat technology that comes from, those days and those eras. Everything is, people ask you what's new, and there's nothing new. It's all been done. The only thing new is the computer. It lets us do it better, make it faster, theorize it, and better management systems. But it was pretty neat, to see something that's 105 years old that was just absolutely mind blowing stuff. And
yeah, that is
never been a part of this.
And you think about that because it is over 100 years old now, something like that.
Crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We're looking at this stuff. I'll have to send you pictures. I wish we could post it up at some point, but I had to take these out to the shop and have the guys. We had to really think about it. It was like, how the hell do you do this? How did they make this part? And it took us a couple of days to figure out how they did it. And here we are with, absolute state-of-the-art CNC everything, and, all they had back then was, a slide rule and a lathe.
Wow.
So it was pretty neat stuff, kind of humbling.
Now, just from a manufacturing perspective, if somebody needed equipment like that, I mean, do you do things like that often that you would make, do you make a batch of 8, or do you, I mean, I know we talked about sealed power last time that, you'd have to buy a sleeve, and you'd have to try to.
Yeah, no, we made, this particular engine was an 8-cylinder, inline, it's a straight 8, and no, we made them 8 cylinders worth. It was a 4-ring piston. It was interesting. It had, and they were all gapless type rings. It had we'll say it had 2 different designs, one on the top of a design, one on the bottom of the same design, and then the 2 in the middle of a different design, and we made those parts. So we, 4-ring piston, 8 pistons, and that's what we made. We made them a couple of spares just in case they broke something, putting them back together. But that was it. So we can, we can literally make just one part. If that's what a guy needs, we can, it can be done.
You know how many times we had something that was close to being out of bore size for spec? And you're looking, and what a lot of people didn't realize is that you used to look at a piston ring book, and people probably still do it, but if you needed to go up to the next overbore to clean something up, you're playing the game as what was or was not available.
Yeah.
Can I get something like this? Is it easy? Is it not easy? And there were times that I know I could have used an oddball ring size, and the customer probably would have paid for it.
Sure.
Well, that's really good to know.
Yeah. We do have some questions already, if you don't mind, sir.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, and one of the things too, and I've said this to you before, when guys start honing engines and doing all of those things, the important things, we get, one thing I get all the time is a guy will tell me, well, it's 20 over. And they'll get the ring and the gaps aren't what they want. Well, it's really not 20 over. It's 22 over. It's 23 over. And as we mentioned before, that 1 thou, for every thou a bore size puts 3 thou on the end of the ring. So it's real important that the bore size be, correct for the part, not just close. And the other thing I wanted to say is, one of the things for us is make us the first call. If you're going to do something weird, hit a weird bore size or in a weird bore size, call us. We'll tell you what you can get. And that may help guide a person to, well, maybe I better stay away from that bore size because I really can't get what I want. I need to go over to this size. It's, and not taking anything away from the piston business. But it's you can make the piston just about any size you want. That doesn't always happen with the rings. We can make it, but that costs more money. So, if we're a simple phone call, to verify that that's a good bore size to go to, yes, no kind of a thing. So, like I said, just check with us first.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to ask. I'm going to skip one guy to ask another question because it seems like it's more involved, and we'll get into the other question. From a design perspective, are there many? What are the differences between like a Formula One car ring set and a Top Fuel dragster funny car ring set?
Oh, that's like what's the difference between the sun and the moon? They're two totally different things. I mean, the designs and the complexities that go into, say like a Formula One ring one, they are very, very small, very, very thin. They can end up ultimately having complex shapes on the face of the ring, meaning more than one profile. Some people say, I have a barrel-faced ring or I have a tapered-faced ring. We can actually, at that level, produce rings that have more than one shape on one ring. So, and we put certain amounts of what are called twist into the ring. So there's quite a big difference between them. I would say the most similar thing is that they're round and they seal similar, seal a cylinder. A top fuel ring, like say like a nitro car would run a, depending on the team and the budgets, different materials. We have our TNT ring, which is a hardened ductile. We have the AP stainless or the M2 tool steels, depending on, how often they're cycling the rings out. But most of those run a ring called a Dykes style ring, which is kind of an L-shaped ring. Imagine, a letter L laying on its back. And what that is it is a design that allows a lot of gas pressure to get behind the ring. And again, like we said before, nothing's new. That design goes back all the way into the early teens, used in aircraft stuff. So they typically use what's called a Dyke style ring, which from a technical point of view is really not very technical. It's a pretty basic part, but it works for them. It does what they need it to do.
I was going to say I'm a big fan of the Dykes. But I mean, it really wasn't going to come out right, but I figured I'd say it anyway. We used, the Dyke stuff back then, a while ago, like with a lot of super stock stuff, because that was kind of the thing that people were using. I'm sure they're not anymore, but that was a real advancement. And we did it in all our circle track stuff. And it was, actually, and you're probably going to cringe at this, with ring spacers, because that's how you had to.
Oh, no, absolutely. No.
Yeah, you had to put them in a factory groove, and they said
it was a way to put a lower drag ring in there at the time, because that was really all there was. You didn't have the options that you have with us today to, either one, custom make a part or, have very thin, very light drag combinations like you had mentioned, stock and guys putting the Dykes in. We still do a lot of spacers for, stock class stuff. We don't do it with the Dykes, but we'll take a 564 groove, say you're working on a, 396, 375 horse, and it has to have the 564s, 316s. Well, we'll do spacers for those grooves. We'll actually gas slot the spacer so it acts like a gas port, and we have different sizes. You can put in, a 1.2 mil ring. You can do, a 0.8 millimeter ring. Again, all depending on where the guy wants to go, how much he wants to spend. So that's still a very, very popular thing to put the spacers in the groove.
And we actually have a guy who's specifically asking about stock and super stock stuff, like what those guys are using now. I have a question that, was just something. We did a fair amount of super stock stuff, and I don't know what year this would have been, where it was, single ring, two ring, oil ring and top ring.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Top ring and and an oil ring. Yeah. Oh yeah. That was very, very popular in the day.
Now, has that gone away?
Yeah, pretty much. What we'll say the give or the take there is the second ring does serve a function. It does act as a backup to the top ring from a compression point of view, but it also acts as a backup to the oil ring from a scraping point of view. So when we lose the second ring, granted we do reduce the friction, but we are going to have more blow by and we are going to have some oil control loss. So with today's modern stuff, that second ring, let's just say for argument's sake, it was a 16/16 combination. 16th inch second ring, you're typically looking at a ring that's going to be 3 to 5 pounds of drag. So you lose that ring, you got that out of there. Okay, that's all great. I lost that amount of friction. Problem is now you're going to have to go up on the oil ring. You're going to have to put tension back into the oil ring to dry the engine back up. And in many cases, you end up, we'll say, negating what you gained. You lost what you gained because with a 3-ring combination, I can really drop that oil ring down into the toilet. I've got stockers with nothing but a PCV valve on the engine, and I'm not joking. I mean, literally have 5-pound oil rings in them.
Wow.
They've really got the finish right, the pistons right, the cylinder, windage is under control, and I don't mean, throwing a windage tray in it. I mean, they've got, cam tunnels blocked off. There's, small pumps, small oil pumps, no high volume anything, low oil pressure, meaning, they keep the numbers down. Really have the oil under control. It's amazing how light you can run that oil ring. Now, if you pulled that second ring, it would never work. It doesn't have, the whole combination has just enough scraping effort, and that's where the two-ringer was kind of an issue. It's not that it can't work; it does work, but you end up having to put too much oil ring in it. With today's light packages, the overall friction is lower with the 3-ring than I can with a 2-ring.
Mm-hmm. Makes complete sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because back in the day, that was quite a while ago where they had the single ring stuff. I mean, my first one was probably 70s.
Pistons are still out there. I get guys will call me up and, hey, we just ripped apart, Bubba's, LT1 out of his Camaro's got a whole set of forged screws in it, and
yeah,
they're still going, and they want rings for them, so we're here to help them.
How about a little lesson on ring flutter? One of our guys is asking about ring flutter. I guess what it is, how to prevent it.
Well, it's a very misunderstood concept. First of all, can an engine get into ring flutter? Absolutely, it can, but it's extremely misdiagnosed, and we'll say kind of like self-diagnosing on WebMD. I mean, guys get on there and they start self-diagnosing their issues. To really, first of all, look at, to see if you have a ring flutter issue, what you're generally going to see if you're looking at, pan pressure, blow-by numbers, you're generally going to see a spike. The ring just doesn't flutter all the time. You're going to see a spike. If you're looking at the numbers, you're going to come through, and generally, and not always, but generally near peak torque, cylinder pressures are highest, load is highest, so on and so forth. All of a sudden, let's just say, for instance, you're seeing 2 CFM of blow-by in the engine, and all of a sudden you get near that number, and the number just jumps through the roof. I mean, you bury the meter at 10 CFM, and then as you come away from that, the number comes back down. That's generally a ring flutter issue. You have built enough pressure between the package to disturb the top ring, but it's generally not a constant. It's something that does it as a spike. Most guys that are self-diagnosing a ring flutter issue honestly just have a bad ring seal problem. Again, if you look at the numbers, you're looking at pan pressures, blow-by, the numbers just go up and up and up. You go through the pole, and it starts off at 2 CFM, and it just keeps going through the roof. And that is just bad ring seal. That's just you just have a ring seal problem. I've had guys tell me they had ring flutter because they've got a chatter mark in the bore. They can see, it looks like a washboard. That's not ring flutter. That's a ring that's dry in the cylinder. It's running without lubrication. So it is something that can happen. Generally speaking, it's going to happen in a normally aspirated engine. The things that it generally takes, and again, there's a lot of dynamics going on here, but generally it's going to happen coming through the exhaust stroke. As the piston's coming up on the exhaust stroke, exhaust valve begins to open. The engine, if you have an engine that's efficient enough, cylinder head, camshaft, exhaust, that it can actually suck the cylinder clean faster than the piston can push it out, that can trigger that. That's one of the things that will truly trigger a ring flutter situation, because now you have literally a negative above the ring pack, pressure built up between the second and the top, and that'll lift the top ring off the land. But and there are other air instances, but that's the most common. It's pretty rare to find an engine that's that efficient, but they are out there. The theory does hold water, but I'd have to say this: 99 out of 100 times when I'm dealing with somebody that is again self-diagnosing a ring flutter problem, it has nothing to do with that. We almost always find there's something else going on in the engine.
Okay, that should clear that question up.
Do you realize how much I'm enjoying this?
Yeah, I know.
I'm like
a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, I mean, because this is all really good information that I hope everybody's really listening to. I really are.
I think they are.
I love this shit.
I think most of them have popcorn and they're listening.
I want to go back to something you had said, Keith, and when we talked about the radial tension. When we talk about, I know ring gaps, I think we covered a little bit of that last time. We did, right, Tom?
Yep.
Ring gaps.
Yep.
On the radial tension side, like let's say you could get a ring that was, let's say 4030, and the ring was designed for a 4030, or you could get a 4035. So you could do, let's say the gapping, like, and let's say they're both like quote unquote pre-gapped. Would you be better off with a 35 for radial tension, or would you be, know what I'm trying to ask? Like, is that sizing also for radial tension?
I'm with you, man. I get it. No, you're always better from a tension point of view to not have to over compress the ring. Take any ring. The more, when it's laying on a table, pick it up. It has nothing. But the more you squeeze it, the closer you get those gaps to butted, that pressure goes up and up and up. So if we have to over compress the ring, meaning like you just said, a file fit situation, a 4035 ring into a 30, no, that ring is going to have more tension. Is it a power eating Robin thing? Not significantly, no. But but to simply answer the question, that ring is going to have more drag. So, if a straight 4030 ring will go into your 4030 bore and give you the gaps you want, you're always better to do that. One, from a tension point of view, it keeps the ring more what we refer to as light tight, meaning it's got full contact all the way around. As you over compress a ring, you can take it out of light tight. That's why we typically go 5 over. If it's a file fit, we'll go +5. Can a guy put a 10 over ring in it? Yeah, but there's a pretty good chance it's going to go out of light tight. If you start to over compress the ring, remember, a ring is only round when it's in its closed state, meaning with the ends butted together. That's when the ring's round.
Yeah, see, I was just going to ask you that. Like, if you over compress a ring, doesn't it lose its shape?
It's going the other way. Yeah. It's elliptical. When it's laying on a table. When it's round or closed, then it's round. As you start to over compress, it's going elliptical again. It's going the other direction. So, there's you can only go so far oversizing a ring and file fitting it and not lose, light tight and add a significant amount of tension. So, again, using 4030, if a 30 will go in there and get you the gaps you want, you're better off from that point, from that technical point of view. And hey, it's a lot less work. Filing rings is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Sitting here thinking about this, you can certainly, at least from my perspective, I can understand the advancements that were made, like in horsepower levels, like as we go up through super stock and where they are now. I mean, because people, and again, we talked about this last time, that, you find 2, 3, 4, 5 in a super stock, you're doing a happy dance.
Big deal.
That's huge.
No doubt.
And all these areas, the fine finesse areas like rings, that's where stuff really matters. Really matters.
Keith, why don't you tell? I know what light tight is. I don't know if our guys do, but just quick, tell them what light tight means.
Yeah, it's something anybody can look and check. What light tight means, we inspect all of our rings in what are called mercury gauges. These are ground to the millionth of an inch. They're certified. And what light tight means is we'll actually put that ring into that gauge. That gauge represents the bore size the part was made for, and we are literally looking for any light that is exposed between the face of the ring and the gauge, or in your case, your cylinder. That's an easy test anybody can do. Take the ring, square it up, put it in the bore, take a little single LED light, a little pen light, and put it right up against the ring where it meets the cylinder. There should be no significant areas not touching the bore. You might see a little pin dot here or there. It can be sitting on a little peak on on the crosshatch. Just little spots, what we call bury light. You can see a little dot here, a little dot there. That's nothing to worry about. But if there's a ½ inch of ring, 3/4 of an inch, you see an egregious amount of ring not touching the bore, something's wrong. Either the ring is not right, it's gotten bent, or we've got a bore that's not round. So we have to kind of stop and look. And see what's going on at that point in time. A little, like I say, tiny bit, nothing to worry about. But if you see, large areas that aren't touching, you want to stop at that point in time, and kind of step back to, get the rings to us, let us light tight check them. If they're light tight here, then we know it's your bore. You want to stop. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse.
But truth be told, we all know that the bores are always round.
Always.
Oh, they're always perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, I wanted to clear that. We had to clear that up.
How's your hone? Perfect. Oh, okay.
Oh, it's perfect.
Well, and how come your rags on your valve cover breathers there are soaking wet? Well, sometimes that happens. Like when you start it.
I have a Porsche cylinder sitting in my office right now that a gentleman sent me because he's been having some issues. And as you just stated, they're perfect. And after I checked them, I was like, yeah, they're perfect if you like stop signs.
Yeah.
There's not much that we would call round about this thing. But, not everybody's got the tools to check it, or,
that's true.
A lot of people assume, they took it to a machine shop and the guy said, oh yeah, everything's right on. I hate saying that, but sometimes you got to get a second opinion. It doesn't always happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agree completely.
Well, go ahead. You said you had a million questions that were complicated.
Well, you know what happens? you get into this stuff and like you get so excited by the stuff you're listening to, and then I'm really good at drawing a blank. I mean, that's kind of what happened. I was sitting here this whole time. I'm like usually looking at buttons, knobs, see who's calling, see what's going on. I didn't do anything but listen. So yeah. I'm kind of out of sorts because the ring discussion to me, and like I said before, you know, coming from a background with stock and super stock and even the 2-barrel stuff, we took very seriously. Mm-hmm. You know, to know the advancements that came from, and don't get me wrong, 2 rings were not like the last thing we did. They were a while back. Yep. But it just seemed like they faded away because, you know, oil rings got better. You got 3mm stuff. I mean, we're talking about people were doing this that I remember when there was like the best oil ring you could buy was an 1/8. You know, when you were playing expander games.
Oh,
and
yeah, that was the bad boy.
Yeah, and we're ordering, you know, this expander and, you know, change them and out. I still, in the basement today, I guarantee you, in the one tote of all stuff I brought from the old shop, I have thousands of loose boxes of sealed power expanders with notes written on it. No good for this, must use in this. I mean, just it's crazy. But that's what we did back then. Now, because of a company like Total Seal, you can just kind of call them and get the right stuff. Yeah. That's awful nice.
You know, you said something.
Tell me what you want. Like you said, and that's how you did business. You had to mix and match all the stuff, and now it's just a matter of tell us what you want. You know, that's what we're here for.
So, Keith, you said something before that interests me because I've never heard it before. You said that you can put 2 profiles on a ring.
Oh yeah.
If you don't mind, if you can, I know you know, but I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it, or you'll have to kill all of us. So tell me about the different shapes and how they work mechanically, if you can.
Well, yeah, I can tell you a little bit about it. I can't get too far, as obviously, we have non-disclosure agreements with all of these fine customers, so we can't talk too much. But what we can do is, think about a barrel-faced ring. You know, it's centerline barrel. You've got typically from the middle of the ring to the top or the bottom. 4 10,000s to 8 10,000s, what we call barrel drop. Well, if you think about that drop, as like a triangle, it's a wedge. And what we can do in these cases is that wedge, depending on the kind of cylinder pressure you have, that wedge can act like a wedge. I mean, you're pushing so much pressure and compressing that pressure down to that fine point, to the corner of that triangle. That pressure number goes up, and that can actually try to push the ring off the cylinder wall. So we'll work with moving that barrel higher on the ring to reduce that amount of wedge, what we call an offset barrel ring. And then there's other profiles that we'll put on the ring as well to try to get it to effectively control oil. So we're not only trying to get it to hold compression, we're actually getting it to do oil control as well. So we're working on, we'll say, complex designs that serve multiple functions. We actually reduce the crevice area in the ring by moving the barrel up. Do some lower leading edge stuff to it to get some a better scraping effort. Less contact, what we call coming through rockover as the piston rotates, coming through top and bottom dead center. I can't get specific about it, but that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to get multiple effects out of the part.
Okay, that makes sense. So as the piston's moving in different planes and the ring is moving kind of on different planes, you're still catching cylinder wall somehow. And obviously you've seen something that causes.
It definitely holds promise. It's one of those things that right now, like a lot of things, it's very complex to manufacture. It's a very time-consuming process. But I can say this: the technology holds water, and we're working on that technology right now to be able to bring that to the mainstay, to the mass market. Kind of like I don't know if you've seen it on, in PRI or at the show, the Total Conform, the slotted ring where we've got the radial slots from the inside edges. It took us a long time to be able to come up with the manufacturing process to be able to bring that, to the market. And all that does is it allows the ring to conform to bore distortion so much better than a conventional ring, and it's filtering into, it's not a mainstay product yet, but that technology is filtering down.
Now,
and it really does work well.
Specifically on that technology, Tad, who is usually our third wheel guy, he's not here. He's stuck in traffic, but he wanted to know how involved is the manufacturing process to make that. He thought that must be horrendous.
Yeah, at this point in time, it's still pretty complex, but we've got the process sorted. That's not a problem. Right now, we're just trying to make it faster.
Gotcha.
To speed the process up, which of course in turn, reduce costs, so on and so forth. Like anything else, you learn as you go, and I can't speak for every company, but we're constantly evolving what we do to do it better, faster, to in turn, help costs.
Okay. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but at this point, like Tad had theorized, and again, I'm using, I'd probably say him anyway, Tad wouldn't.
Yeah, true.
What he wanted to know is, are those rings better suited? And I guess you kind of answered it already, that for bores and blocks that were prone to more dynamic distortions while they're racing.
Absolutely. That was the initial target, was to improve that conformability. One of the things, when you talk about the ability of the ring to follow the bore, the radial depth, the depth from the face to the inside edge, is the dimension that really affects that. And we've got a lot of very shallow piston rings today. And you see it even in the OE engines. They're going to very shallow radial dimensions. But that becomes more and more complex for the piston manufacturer, just like the thinner and thinner rings. I mean, we produce rings today that are 20,000s. That's a real bugger of a ring groove to cut, I can tell you that. It's not an easy thing to do. So as these dimensions keep getting smaller and smaller, it's tougher and tougher for the piston people. Real shallow radial stuff's real sensitive to the amount of taper or barrel that's in the piston. So what we were looking at was a way to bring that type of technology into a ring that has a normal depth, and that's where and it also acts like a pseudo gas port. It helps the gas load better. It reduces the amount of tension the ring itself has. The ring actually has less tension with the slotting, but the point is to make it conformable, and it really does do that. All engines distort, but we're going to all these thin wall aluminum blocks today, and aluminum blocks that don't even have a liner. They're just they're just a coated block or alusil, and cylinder distortion is a big thing in these engines.
Okay. Did you want to ask that question that the other listener?
Yeah. And I mean, I think we kind of covered this when we talked quickly about ring gap, but whenever we talk about piston rings, this is one of the things that people most frequently ask. First off, is there a longevity gap versus a peak power gap? What is the difference between a ring gap for boosted versus nitrous versus normally aspirated? I know we covered some of this, but could we give like the generalization of what people should think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the bottom line, when you get into power adder stuff, I mean, it's all about heat. I mean, you can't, we're back to BTUs. To make horsepower, we have to make heat. Bottom line, end of the day. Cold fusion, as far as we know, is not a reality yet. So we're going to make heat to make power. As that heat goes up, and we're talking in cylinder temperature, as that heat goes up, like anything else, those parts are going to expand. The piston's going to grow, the block's going to grow, as is the ring. So as that heat goes up, we have to give the ring more gap, more what I'll call free gap, when the engine's sitting there doing nothing. We're gapping the rings with, at room temperature. So, our target is to have, next to no gap when the engine's in its worst case scenario. 1,000s, 2,000s, we'll call it just right. We want to get it as close as we can and not butt the ring. So it may take 36, 40, 50, static, but when the engine's actually running and at temperature, the gap's going to be very, very tight. Again, we want it to be as tight as we can without butting the ring. So that's the reason that gap is big, is because of the heat. We have to gap it bigger because we're making more power. Top fuel stuff, nitro motors that are out there, I mean, they're running 70,000 thin gap. But that whole gap is there to make sure the ring doesn't butt when it's under temperature. So that, so the whole point of the static gap is you always have to look at what it's doing, at temperature. And the same thing goes back to the normally aspirated engine. We can run the gap much, much tighter because we're not making anywhere near the amount of heat, but the same goal is the goal. We want that ring as close to butted as we can get it, but not butted. We want it as tight as we can get it, so we're not getting any additional blow by past the ring, but not butt the ring. And that's always the challenge. We as a manufacturer give end gap suggestions and recommendations, and they're generally pretty conservative. Is that to, on a small block Chevy, normally aspirated, a guy would ask me at a 4030 bar, I'll tell him to put it in at 18. Now, does that mean he couldn't run it at 14 or 16? Don't know for sure, till he runs it. I don't know exactly how his car's tuned. How hot does he run the car? What's the fuel curve like? Is it real rich? Is it real lean? There's a lot of things that come into play as far as how much gap can you get away with. And, most experienced builders, what I tell them is file the ring. Always just file one side of the ring, not both. Black the ends back down, and every time you build that engine, look at those gaps. If you see any witness marks, you butted the ring. Means whatever you're using, it's going to have to go a little bigger. But if you're consistently taking the engine apart, you don't see anything, well, try tightening it up a couple thousandths the next time. It's one of those things. We can give specifications and recommendations, but the repetitive building of that engine and really looking at what it's doing will tell you where it needs to be.
And of course, I think it goes without saying to most people, especially if they've ever had it happen, that butting a ring, I mean, like you said, getting some witness marks is fine, but if they start to make contact, that heat wedge that's driven into the bore of that thing,
disaster.
That is a mess.
Yeah.
That is an absolute mess.
Yeah, it's not happy. I mean, it's if you really butt it hard, all the hot blow-by gases are going to go past the piston, past the rings. It's going to vaporize the oil that's on the bore. Everything at that point goes metal to metal, AKA Black Death. So yeah, you really don't want to butt the ring.
You know what? I got to tell you, when he said, 430, 18, my butt puckered because I think back to all the circle track guys. Those guys would have that stuff messed up in a week.
Yeah,
I can't.
Well, on the
that's.
Go ahead, Keith.
So go ahead. Like, where to go? That's why we spend so much time with people on the phone. I'll get a circle track guy calls me up, and it's like, well, how hot do you run this thing? What's it running like? I mean, if this thing runs 180 all the time, you never get it over 200. It's great. Okay, we can do this. But if you're like most guys, 250, 260, because it's got a hole in the radiator, and you're coming for the flag, you're not shutting it off. So now, you better be running more gap in there than that, from a safety point of view. So it's really a matter of you got to kind of feel out what is the environment really like? What is the worst case scenario?
Well, I have a question on the gap note because we get this a lot. And I don't know if you're going to be willing to answer this, but I'm going to try. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of people, I do, call me up and say, hey, man, for whatever reason, I'm just checking my ring gaps, and you guys recommend 18 to 22, and I have a couple rings that are at 23 already, and I would say, okay, well, you don't have to do anything to them because they're ready to go, and they're like, oh no, it's a thou over. I mean, it's like they're going to lose 50 horsepower. So I would like one of the professionals, you, to fill me in. I mean, does a thou or two? Seriously?
Yeah. How critical is ring gap in the blow-by scheme?
Yeah, no, not going to make anything at all. I mean, I get Monday mornings. Typical. It's the I overfiled it or I broke it phone calls. Everybody's calling because they're putting stuff together over the weekend and they overfiled. I had a guy today. Oh, those second rings sure are softer than the top rings, and I go, oh, you overfiled some, didn't you? Yep. So we mailed him out some rings, helped the guy out, and like you say, but at the same time, I get the guys, like you said, they're losing sleep because, they've got two rings that have got a thou, 2 thou more than the others. It isn't going to make any difference. Put them in. If you go way out, you're shooting for 18 to 22 and, oh my God, you got them at 32. Yeah, you're probably going to want to replace those. But if you're sitting 23, 24, put it in. Don't sweat it. Absolutely not going to make any difference whatsoever.
You know how many circle track guys, because we, like Keith's saying, you get to know, how the motor runs or how the customer behaves. So there were certain guys that we had classified and had a specification for this particular type of ring gap.
Sure.
And those guys would usually leave it like 26 to 28.
Yeah, because they had to.
Yes, they would. They could.
Stangle.
No, him. That wouldn't even help him. I mean, there are guys that will have a connecting rod hanging out of the side of the motor, and somehow or another, it's out of everything's way and it's running, and they will continue to race it.
Sure.
So you really got to be careful with the circle track guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not talking down. I mean, it's just. I mean, we had back in the day when we ran sprint cars. We mostly do dirt late model and IMCA stuff out of here now, but sprint cars was kind of the thing for a while, and we'll just. I'm not going to name names or point fingers, but one of the cars went out, and there wasn't a drop of water in that car. And the guy running the car, boy, it's I'll just say it nicely. You burn up a $40,000 engine to win a $5 trophy. So after that was
every weekend,
done, I was like, dude, I'll buy you the trophy. When the signboard says "Bring it in," bring it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could smell how hot it was going around.
Yep. Hey, I got a guy ask, how do you blacken the edge of a ring? I mean, just use Dykem?
Oh, just Sharpie marker. Yeah.
I was just going to say Sharpie.
I use a Sharpie marker. Once it dries, it stays on there. I've used that. You can get little paint pens, testers like Hobby Paint, like, model car paint. They make little black paint pens. I use paint pens. It'll stay on there.
A Sharpie will stay on.
Mm-hmm. Dry,
Sharpie stuff is badass, man.
It'll stay on all kinds of stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no. Once it dries, it stays on there, and it'll shine at you like a flashlight.
I remember it was either John Hoffman or maybe who was it? Somebody took
Tischler.
No, it wasn't Tischler. Definitely not Tischler. Took a Sharpie marker and they drew down the skirt of the piston, just lines.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the dyno session, looked to see how it was running, why it was running, to try to determine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so yeah, that stuff, it's amazing.
Sounds like something Hoffman would do.
It might have been.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'm not interrupting. I've done the same thing. I've taken a big black Sharpie marker, blacked the entire skirt area of the piston, so we can put it on, run it, see, and see if we're seeing any contact, see what if any is hitting and where. Oh no, like I say, it was still on there.
Wow.
Except the places it was hitting.
Yeah, right. Hey, you're getting props on the ring gap grinder. One of our guys has one, and he gaps a lot of rings. I know that. He said thing's awesome. So,
tell him thank you very much. We build that thing in-house. It's all done right here. About the only part of that thing we don't make is the electric motor. Everything else is done completely right here. And tell him thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I've seen it too. It's a really cool machine.
Yeah, I think the one I got, I had bought one, and I'm sure Total Seal didn't have theirs then. But I think Goodson might have made it. It was the first. Well, we had a bunch of the RC car motor ones, and they just sucked. The aluminum waves would wear out and all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we got into a regular, like the Goodson one I have was, and I'm sure it's gotten infinitely better. But that thing was actually much nicer to use than any other previous way. The way we used to do it. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that machine was actually built by a gentleman named Gene. And that machine was originally called the Gene's machine, and like you said, it has evolved for years and years and years. And Gene actually ultimately was making them for Goodson and for ourselves. And we had a good relationship with Gene, and Gene's an older gentleman, very nice guy, and he contacted us one day, got a hold of myself, and said, "Keith, this is just too much work for an old man like me." He goes, "I got to get out of this thing." And I said, "Gene, tell me how much." And, bottom line, because I want to give Gene his props. He's a good guy. We bought it all out from Gene. We bought all the tooling, everything from him, all his inventory, brought it all here to Phoenix, and then, took it upon ourselves to, as Gene did, evolve it, some more, make some other changes, do some more updates to it. So like himself, we've made some changes to it since that. And like I say, everything's done right here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, like once you need to do a quantity of rings, and I'm sure it's gotten nothing but better. I mean, that's just fantastic to use. Mm-hmm. It's what a time. I mean, we used to have, and I don't know, Keith, if you ever saw one of these. You ever see a vertical electric reciprocating filer?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we had forever.
I thought you made that shit up.
No. It held a file, and that's how it was done until we went to this. It held a file, had a big, table. It was like a bench sitting thing, had an electric motor, and the file would just go up and down. And actually it was something that looked like a roller lifter on the back of it to stop the file from deflecting. And you would, put the ring around it and it would just, the finest file in the world just to keep, and that, you want to talk about tedious? Whew.
I have used that exact piece of equipment many, many, many moons ago, and like I say, I'm not the fastest ring filer on the planet, but a very good friend of mine, Steve's got a pair of 428 Super Cobra jets. Got Shelby Mustang, and he's got a real neat '69 Ranchero GT, but it's actually a factory drag pack car. They only made 7 of them, which is kind of cool for a Ranchero. But anywho, I file fitted both of those engines in 45 minutes. So, 16 cylinders and, 45 minutes, and I'm not the fastest guy on the planet. So, it wasn't me, it was that machine. So it really does make a quick job of it.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. Well, I mean, we covered a lot of ground again.
Yeah, we did.
And I mean, and Keith, just so you know, there's people that are saying, "My God, another great guest. We should be paying for this." So that's quite a compliment.
Yeah.
No, like I say we can get you more. One thing I want to touch on real quick that I don't know if we talked about it last time or not, and this I don't want to make this a sales pitch. I just want people to know we brought out a new ring package. It's a 0.92 millimeter package. For years, everybody's been after us. We were talking about stock, super stock, thinner rings, lighter rings, less drag. We've got our diamond finish stuff, of course. As I mentioned to you before, a lot of stuff, super stock guys run it, and pro stock and cup, and comp eliminator, blah blah. But they're expensive. They're typically over $1,000, and we're always being asked for something better than the 043, but not to the $1,000 stuff. We developed the 0.92 millimeter. It's literally the same price as the 043 stuff. I've got them in just about all, every common 4-inch, and up bore size. And they're shallow radial or 125 thousandths radial, so they've got excellent bore conformability.
Wow. And
against a 43 package, they are, time after time after time, 10 to 15 better, with just, obviously making, speccing your piston for that package. So, for the guys that want to go further than the 043 stuff, come up with something that's making, better power. It's excellent longevity. You can get them gapless or conventional. I've got them in 18-pound of boost turbo 24-hour LLMP cars with a gapless top ring. Hold up fantastic. So it's a very durable package, but, significant power gain versus the 043 stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there so guys know that is available when they're trying to step it up and, keep the budget in budget.
Yeah, listen, Keith, whenever you're on here, and hell, if you just got something new you want to pedal to tell us about, call us, man. It's
it's a cool package. Everybody, I've got them in, like I say, 24 LMP. I've got them in drag cars. I've got them in, a mountain of 410 sprint cars. That's, 9,000 RPM, almost 1,000 horsepower. Holding up great. So I'm not trying to brag it up too much, but it is a really solid package that works really well, and better ring seal, less blow by, and less friction. So significant gains.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
I'll try to sell some.
I had another question.
Absolutely.
One last question, and we might have talked about this last time. Did we talk about back clearance? Because we did talk about back clearance.
Yeah, I think we did, but we can go back over it if you want.
Sure. Because people now heard, that newer rings, more conformability because they're thinner. Now they're going to have questions about back clearance. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, the target numbers for me is always, and you and I have had this conversation, we'll say off there, 5 to 10 is my target number. That's a solid place to be. Tighter than 5, again, you got to be really careful where all these things that we talk about is, gaps and back clearances and axial height, is all theory. None of us know exactly how that piston's growing, exactly how the bore is going to change. So we have to always put some safety factor in there. So 5 is my minimum. It's not to say that a guy can't run it, at 0. But if the ring goes proud of the land when it's at temperature, and again coming through rockover, and that ring bottoms out in the groove, we're going to kill it. It's just as bad, if not worse, than butting the ring ends. It's the same effect. It's going to go metal to metal. It's going to push the ring through the oil film and wipe it out. So, the last thing we want to do is bottom the ring out in the groove. So 5 to 10 is kind of my target. Can a guy get away with more than 10? Sure. I've seen people run them at 40 and 50. It's not that the ring won't work. It will work. But you get what's more crevice volume in behind the rings, and that just makes everything kind of slow down, how it reacts on the intake stroke, how it loads the ring. It just makes everything kind of lazy as far as ring function goes. So, like I say, 5 to 10 is kind of the target.
That makes sense, too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you got to pressurize the gap.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like a bigger pipe.
The more area there is behind it, the longer it takes to pressurize it. And on a normally aspirated engine, as you come through the exhaust stroke, coming through 2DC, the more gas volume that's above the ring, behind the ring, below the ring, to quote unquote make a vacuum, I have to, we'll say get rid of the positive to make a negative. The ring sealing on the intake stroke is what creates that draw. Gravity can only do so much. So, the less volume of gas that's in and around the ring package, the faster it's going to react on the intake stroke. It's going to signal the intake stroke faster.
Yeah, the transition will happen much faster. Yeah, makes sense.
Transition happens quicker, and it is a dynoable thing, if that's a word. We've tested it and played with some different depths and different amount of back clearance, and I've seen 10 and 15 horsepower difference. Again, it's not that the engine didn't work. The engine worked great, but we were able to make it work better.
Got it.
Hey, do you have the 992 millimeter in 3800? Got a guy asking. He's got a V6, probably a turbo Buick.
Matter of fact, I do.
Okay, there you go.
Matter of fact, I do.
There you go, Nitro Scott.
Yeah, perfect.
Call him up.
Well, listen, Keith, again,
and not to insult him, that wasn't the target that I built it for. I built it for the 305 sprint cars, but it'll work in his too.
Yep.
yeah. And I mean, I can't thank you enough for coming on again. I mean, we always have a great time with you, and
it's amazing how fast the time goes. It's because he's a great guest.
Yeah, I mean, I looked over and I'm like, wow. And we don't have a clock, and I mean, I'm not trying to get rid of the guy.
No.
But it's amazing how quick it goes.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Well,
I'm one day back from Denver, up on the mountain. So it's at some point in time, it's time to go home.
And to show you, that was one of the things we talked about. Yeah. Tom's like, oh, we got to talk to Keith about Denver.
Yeah.
Well,
next time
we'll get you next time you're at a pro stock race.
Next time we'll just say we're not happy. We just to give Matt props. I mean, they went up there a week ago and the car tested unbelievably well. Warren Johnson does the power plant. Kurt and Warren have worked their butt off. They've really made some power with this thing. Again, like I say, testing the car just worked unbelievably well. We just, how do I say it? If we weren't for bad luck, we had no luck. I mean, it shook the tires, it spun the tires, it broke valve springs, it, chutes came out early on one run. I mean, we looked at the numbers on that. Chutes came out at 1,000 foot. If that run would have went out the back end, we'd have been, we'll say, a very, very top half qualifier. So it was, I guess that's racing. That's how it goes. So the boys are on the way to Sonoma right now, and we'll just say hopefully they can put it together there.
Good. It's never easy.
No,
it's never easy.
No, if it was easy, we'd all be doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Keith, plug the place again so everybody knows how to get you, specifically you, if they got questions.
Yep.
Absolutely. Hey, this is Total Seal. www.totalseal.com. Phone number is 800-874-2753 for the toll-free. If you want to email me, Keith J at Total Seal. If you've got any questions, hey, please send them.
Great.
Fantastic.
We'll fight him back as long as we can, but I feel like we're probably going to have you on, at least, in the next 6 months, probably.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So if you could handle us again, we'll be calling.
And Keith, like we said, don't be a stranger, man. If you got something new that's come out, seriously.
Yeah, just call in.
Even just call in, Monday nights. If you got something to add, call in. Fantastic.
I'll do it.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, brother.
See ya.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you later.
Hi, man.
He's awesome.
Dude. I know. Oh, he's a smart dude, man.
He's personable. He's smart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a fun guy.
We actually have a guy calling from New Jersey. I don't know why. Should we answer him?
Yeah, let's do it. You're on the air.
Yeah, you think?
Who's this?
Oh, you can't tell? Can't you tell from the phone number?
No, talk a little more.
All right. I looked up the word egregious for you. You might have been a little bit stumped by that, right?
Egregious?
Who said egregious?
I don't know.
I think Keith did. Egregious gap or egregious something.
I still want to know who this guy is.
Dumbass is Tad.
Oh, probably the listeners didn't know who you were because you're actually talking.
Yeah, and he sounds like a normal person.
Maybe that's what he's got to do. All right, Todd, maybe now you've got to do this from your phone. You're going to have to call in. That's what's going to have to happen with you.
Thing, though.
I asked your question, buddy. You happy?
What?
I asked your question about the manufacturing process and everything about the rings.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, you don't listen?
I got it halfway on the way home, and it sounded beautiful through the car. When I came in the house, I called up, to talk, to interject or whatever, and listening to it on the cell phone, it's crackling like a mother.
Yeah, I think something there's something that goes on with that, and it's probably in feeding to the callers on hold.
Nitro Scott just said begin word count. Oh, you can't win, Todd.
All right, Todd. Anything else?
Anyway,
he's done. He said 14 words.
It was a very interesting show. I mean, the guy's good.
Look, now you can't get him to shut up.
I know, and
he'll sit
normal
here and look at the iPad and
hang up on him. Hang up on his ass.
All right, Todd. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye. What?
I don't know. I can't.
You can't make this shit up, and he's not doing this on purpose.
No, he's not. It's crazy.
Holy Christ! All right, I enjoyed the hell out of that.
Yeah, it was good.
And yeah, I had a couple questions. A couple of them he hit on. A couple of them we probably did go over, the first time, but still, that was.
Well, he is the real deal. I mean, he's the guy we call when we have ring questions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the guy.
And actually, the first time I talked to him ever was because of you.
Yeah.
Because what were we using? We were using a 2-barrel piston, and we wanted to try something better for a ring.
Yeah.
I remember that. And he's the guy that talked us through it and what we should use and why. And, I got to give the guy a lot of credit.
Yeah, I mean, he goes to all the shows for them, where they send all the smart people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I end up at them, but somehow I do. I don't know.
All right. Well, anything else?
No, I'm good. That was I honestly can't believe how fast that went.
Me neither.
It's a combination of it's 90% how great Keith is and 10% because Pat wasn't here.
Pat, Tad, Sam,
Pete, whatever his name is.
You want to talk about Pro Stock real quick? Because I didn't watch it.
I don't have any information.
So you didn't watch it either?
No, that's why it would have been great. I mean, I know Alan Johnson won. I knew he blew some shit up, but that's all I got.
On that failure, I started the outdoor music.
Yeah.
I figured you want to talk about Pro Stock because
I did.
you knew something about it.
No, I knew he knew because he was there.
Oh, gotcha.
So I
All
helped.
right. All right. Well, this train wreck will be back next week.
Yes, it will.
Monday night, as usual. And again, everybody, thanks for listening, and we hope you learned something.
Thanks, guys.